Everyone, welcome back to New Slang. I am music journalist Thomas Mooney. This is episode 155, and on this one, I'm joined by Lubbock singer-songwriter Mason Server of Mason and the Gin Line. If you've been following me on Twitter or Instagram, you'll probably have heard me mention Mason and the Gin Line. They're this new band out here in Lubbock who have really been one of the most intriguing outfits to come out of the area the past few years. And that's really built on a handful of things. What I find really interesting and undoubtedly a part of their buzz is how they really harken back to this late 90s, early 2000s version of the Texas country red dirt singer-songwriter scene. And a huge reason to that is because Mason and company, well, they're not spring chickens, they're not like 20-year-old kids. They're more in that mid to late 30s range. And they really use that to their advantage when it comes to their songwriting and the storytelling. For starters, some of that wisdom comes with age, right? A lot of the storytelling perspective comes with that age. And then also, it's not like Mason just started writing yesterday. So he's got like this back catalog of songs that have never really been heard. And so if there's something that he wrote, let's say 10 years ago, and it still keeps on popping back up, that probably means it's a good song. And it's not like you can't morph a song from a long time ago into something that's a little bit more modern. People obviously do that all the time, but I think there's something to some of these songs having those old origins, those roots of an older version, an older brand of Texas country. It's also in relation to Mason's knack for narrative and how he taps into these West Texas characters that are real and rooted in reality. You can feel a little bit of Charlie Robison or early Robert Earl Keen in a song like Pipeliner. You get this like desert mysticism in something like Ghosts or House of Gold and Diamonds, which I probably should have mentioned a minute ago. They released this EP called Caprock Composition back in early December, and it's really been one of the most refreshing batches of songs to come out this past year. It's something that pops up a few times during our conversation that I feel is a huge aspect as well, and that's that they're doing this on their own terms with very little expectation. They of course want to be successful and they want to take it seriously and so on. But as we put it, they're also kind of playing with house money. They're good with what they have going and they aren't necessarily needing this in maybe the same way they would have had it been, let's say, 15 years ago. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Soto. If you're asking yourself what exactly Desert Door or a Soto is, well, it's a premium, high-quality spirit that is similar to a tequila or a mezcal, but in my estimation, it's more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It has a distinct and intriguing palate that picks up on hints of vanilla and citrus while maintaining a healthy earthiness that is quite enjoyable. One of my favorite features about Desert Door is just how versatile it really is. If you want to feel fancy and a little highbrow, it's perfect for a variety of cocktails that call for lime wedges and coarse salt, chopped ginger, agave nectar, sprigs of thyme and sticks of cinnamon. If you're down to muddle some fresh fruit, all that kind of stuff, it's perfect. It's great for experimentation and fine-tuning all of your mixologist skills. And then also, if you're a little bit more down home and casual, you got that denim jacket on. It's just perfect for those short and sweet, simple go-to favorites that hit the mark every time. I'm talking about ranch waters and Moscow mules and palomas and Mexican Coca-Cola with Desert Door. What I love so much about Desert Door is just how genuine and authentically West Texan they are as well. They go out and harvest Soto plants out in the wild and are aware and knowledgeable conservationists at heart. So next time you're at your neighborhood liquor store, get yourself a bottle of Desert Door. I'll throw a link into the show notes for more information. Oh, and I should mention that Blaze Butler, the Gin Line bassist, comes in near the end of this episode as well. I don't think there will be any confusion or anything like that, but I just figure I should mention it. Which, yeah, let's get on into the interview. Here is Mason Server of Mason and the Gin Line.
Right. Hell yeah.
So, which I don't paint you as a big old like IPA kind of guy. So.
Yeah, no. This is just your standard Bud Light.
Well, yeah, man. Like, I guess let's start out with, you released this EP this past year, and it's it's been this weird year, obviously, with the pandemic and everything, and you really pushing into releasing this record, releasing a couple of singles, and trying to do all that. And I mean, I'm sure it's been frustrating to not been able to really play live in the way that you would love to have played live. Has it been frustrating on your end, or has it been?
It has, but if you, the funny thing is, and I almost hate to give this away because I don't want people to think that we're not serious, but this thing has turned into something that is probably bigger than that. Me and Blaze Butler is the guy that plays bass for us, and is an old friend of mine. And the way all this kind of started, basically, Blaze has a friend in Austin that has a studio. I didn't even know the guy. And I had gone through a breakup in 2019, 2020, right there in that frame of time. And I had always written songs, and as a way to sort of have something to do besides sit around and mope and cry, I went and got a Mac Mini from Guitar Center that had GarageBand, and it even had Pro Tools, which I never got uploaded. That's a whole different story. But anyway, we started to lay down songs that I'd written over the years, just these acoustic versions, starting on GarageBand. I mean, just messing with stuff on a very basic level. Anyway, this friend of Blaze's, through Facebook, he says, "Hey, my band is going to have an album release." And Blaze tells him, his name's Eric Harrison. He's also a Lubbock guy. You may know the guy. Anyway, he says, well, Blaze says, we're actually recording some stuff too. And Eric says, well, shit, send me some. And I assume that he was really doing that in the way that you do to somebody that, like, oh, cool, send me some. You like, or don't, and I don't really care. Probably. Would you know what I mean? So, but Blaze is like, well, okay, yeah, I will send you some. And lo and behold, he says, this song, Loose Tonight, would you guys let us produce that? And we're like, well, yeah, dude, we're not doing anything, right? At this point, there's no band, there's nothing. And so they produced the song. Little by little, we start to hear peaks of what it's going to sound like. And basically when they gave it back, that's when Blaze and I said, okay, man, the potential is really there to make some really badass music for real. So we got to pull together a band. And I played around town, lots of cover gigs, acoustic gigs over the years, but never really serious. And just having that production, having something that's really done professionally, it was like, wow. It gave me it was like a, I don't know the word, whatever, epiphany or cathartic moment or whatever you want to call it. And it was like, dude, this stuff it can be really, really good. And I had enough faith in myself as a musician. I always knew that I could have a band if I would stop being lazy and do it. And so that's pretty much the way it worked. And so long answer to your question. It has been frustrating, but at the same time, it's still been super, super cool to us because, we're doing stuff like this, and it was we didn't know a year ago that any of this would even happen, So everything is good and fun to us. You know what I mean? We played Blue Light a few weeks ago, and it's just badass. So we are at that point now where it's like, okay, now we need gigs, man.
Right.
We're ready to play. Of course, we also want to go record more too. We have the stuff to do it, the material. We just gotta get set up to get down there and do it.
Yeah. Look, that's that first song that you released, that Loose Tonight. Where I first heard it was via Charlie Stout. Charlie had sent it over, and he remembered.
Oh yeah.
Playing like an acoustic gig with you somewhere in the last calendar year or so before that, and was like,
yeah, well,
this guy
that Cook's Garage.
Okay, yeah. And he had said, like, yeah, this guy's got songs right here. Oh, I'm glad to see that, something's happening. And, that first time you put it on, you're kind of like, okay, well, I didn't know this was missing in this quote unquote Texas scene, but like you're kind of filling a void of a certain style that's kind of been lost, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair to say, and it's really really flattering and cool to hear that. I don't even know what it is. I'm not even sure what, because I try to listen to it as objectively as I can in the same line of stuff that other guys that are either young up and comers or other established guys are doing, and it's real hard to put a finger on exactly what it even is. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like what I kind of feel is that, for starters, it reminds me of a lot of the late 90s, early 2000s, quote unquote, Texas country or red dirt. Like that first thing that Loose Tonight, I was like, shit, man, this sounds like Mike McClure, Great Divide.
Right.
Or like, a cousin of that kind of stuff. And then, once the EP came out, you could kind of, or I guess as long as once some of the songs from the EP, because you released two or three of the songs prior to the release, you could kind of go, oh man, like this, like he's kind of tapping into this same thing that a lot of those guys from that era were. And there's also just something really just unpretentious about your songwriting. And you're just kind of like, this is just a story. And, that's just, it's not having to be anything more than just that story. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I tell you, Thomas, I think the biggest thing there, more than anything else, and I hate this part kind of because I wish I had done it sooner, but I think a big connection there, one reason that stuff sounds like a lot of stuff that's come before is because, dude, I'm 37 years old, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not this is something that easily could have been started, 15 years ago. And I kind of wish that it had, but then again, I don't have, how do you put this? I don't have to make it doing this. You know what I mean? I don't have to write songs to go, well, hey man, maybe I'll catch this group with this deal. And maybe, and I'll do this and this and this, because, not that I'm definitely not wealthy. There's more truth to that pipe hunter stuff than you might think, in terms of, kind of having a blue collar background and certainly life now. But, that's one nice thing about it, is a little bit of, I'm not knocking the young guys, man. I wish I was young again, to tell you the truth, like Co or somebody, 23, 4 or 5 years old. But it's nice because of, I've had a little more time to develop some perspectives, and I really don't have anything to lose, man. I don't have any, I got nothing to lose and everything to gain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like there is this element of like, if you were, 25 right now, you'd be, or 23, 22, you'd be hustling real hard trying to do this. And, when that kind of stuff happens, what's attached to all that is expectations and like all the things that you kind of tell yourself. And right now, like in a lot of ways, it's kind of like playing with house money, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's like I said, I never want it to seem like we're not taking it seriously, because the goal would be to do this, this would be what we do. That this is, I want to share the stage with all these guys, the old heads that are closer to my age and the young ones. I don't want to play with all of them. Festivals, the whole deal. I hope that happens, but because of being a little older and all that kind of stuff, if it doesn't, I didn't lose the world. You know what I mean? I wasn't doing it to start with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think what it helps is being older and kind of being already having a life established, and having a little bit more something to fall back on already. Is that like you're not having to now? I mean, hypothetically, you're not having to try and like, I guess like not let the magic go. You know what I mean? You're not
Right.
like there's not this like I guess like maybe there is this all universe, but there's not this like scenario where you're gonna be trying to write a fucking hit song and where it's like hokey and just not you, because you don't have to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And you know, okay, here's another thing too. I shouldn't say that we don't try to write to some extent with a target, because I do find myself saying, okay, let's try to get something that has a hook that's catchy. You know what I mean? But it's not like me going, okay, well, you know, Co's doing this and Reach Outhall's doing this, and you know, so I mean, I damn sure I've got to come up with something. You know what I mean? It's most of this stuff is very much if I'm not really feeling it, I'm not writing it. And I'm not saying those guys are doing that. You know, I haven't met those guys, and I imagine most of their stuff is coming straight from the heart and the head as well. But you know, certainly when you get, you know, involved in any kind of conversation that has to do with Nashville or anything like that, you know, like there's so much of that, you know, just playing schlocky shit, you know, it's just trash, man, you know?
Right. Yeah. You're not, it's on both parts right there of like you're not having to write a backroad song. You're not trying to like be on top 40 radio. And then when it comes to like the other guys within this scene, you know, there's I think like one of the beauties of songwriting and storytelling in general is that, especially as songwriters, you're supposed to grow as you age. And that sounds very, very obvious, but like, you know, I want to hear like a 38-year-old or a 40-year-old sing about 40-year-old stuff. And I want like, you know,
that's right. Yeah.
The 25-year-old to be singing and writing about 25-year-old shit. And like,
I agree.
Like,
yeah,
it very much happens a lot, like in Nashville, where like the best example is like Luke Bryan kind of being like a 40-year-old dude singing about like high school shit, and you're just like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah,
is
like
this?
a lot, like singing about that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
You know what, man? I have some shameless soft spots for a few things in his repertoire. It's so shameless. Have you ever heard that song "Hunting, Fishing, Loving Every Day"?
Yeah,
That is just the most redneck, and I catch myself humming it. I'm like, stop, dude, stop! Don't do that. But no, I'm totally with you, man. That stuff is it's not believable. I mean, you know, those guys, yeah, a lot of those songs sell or whatever, but what must that look like when you're seeing Luke Bryan at a concert and he's talking about, you know, like you said, backroad stuff, when, you know, that happens, like when you're like pre-driver's license using, you know, your learner's permit to drive back to the creek bank and shit. And this guy's like 45 years old, you know, it's just not believable. And a lot of the guys that influenced me and musically, weren't even in Texas country anyways. And people like Bruce Springsteen, man, I know that might sound like a, you know, low hanging fruit or something, but seriously, I think he always wrote, at least at his years, if not beyond them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like Bruce is like just I think like the epitome of like just the American songwriter or storyteller, because it's one of those things that obviously like he he wrote about New Jersey, and he wrote about like this very stylized version of New Jersey. And people always talk about, you know, visiting his hometown and just kind of being like, well, this is it. This is kind of boring looking. And, you know, like the romanticism of Springsteen, of these characters and these places, you know, that's, I think, like kind of the job is telling these stories and making them bigger and more grand, and kind of making like the everyday, the common a little bit more special.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. For sure. And I try to tap into that stuff without thinking about it most of the time. I mean, and I have it's a weird thing. I have education, man. I have 2 college degrees, but I'm a shop foreman, man. I weld, dude. You know, so I've spent a lifetime in this weird, you know, kind of floating between 2 worlds, but mostly in the you know, I was a cabinet maker for many years, and you know, build stuff with wood and steel and stuff. So those stories are not. I mean, yeah, they may be fictional in those individual stories, but I promise you, they're based on situations that I've actually known and or lived. You know what I mean? So that's and those stories are always fun to me. I've always thought that the classes out in the big middle and even maybe on the lower end have better stories.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by Hot Damn Coffee. Rolling in from the hills of eastern Tennessee is Hot Damn Coffee. It's a down-home company that roasts single-origin, high-quality coffees from around the world. Their year-round roasts come from certified farms in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Nicaragua. Check out the Hot Damn website over at hotdamn.coffee. There you can find more info on their operation and roasting process, and some helpful tips on how to brew the best cup of coffee. They've certainly made my mornings that much better. And to be perfectly honest, I enjoy a nice cup of coffee at all hours of the day. Some of my favorites have been the Tanzanian peaberry in medium roast and the medium roast of Nicaraguan with the honey process. While there, check out their Hot Damn Coffee Club, which is a monthly subscription service. With the holiday season coming upon us, it's just really kind of the perfect gift. I don't care how difficult or easy a person is to shop for, they'll always be good with items like high quality coffee. And of course, right now, if you throw in the promo code SLANG in all caps, that's SLANG, you'll get 20% off your order. And if you're signing up for the Coffee Club subscription service, they'll take 20% off that first month and also throw in a bonus 8-ounce bag of their Nicaraguan coffee. Again, that's SLANG in all caps. Head over to hotdamn.coffee and sign up today. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The cabinet maker, you know, I'm a former door maker over here, so.
Oh, right on, like cabinet doors?
Yeah, cabinet door, yeah.
Oh yeah. So you know how that deal works.
Yeah, well,
okay. Yeah,
well, go ahead.
No, don't. Go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say is, like, you know, I feel like for me, whenever I was doing that stuff, it's very easy to, like, get into the swing and, like, get in the routine, I guess. And how does that lend to songwriting and, like, just thinking about stuff that, not necessarily where you're writing a song while you're welding, but you're kind of, like, thinking about stuff that could potentially morph into a song once you are able to actually sit down and stuff?
Well, I mean, you know, maybe it's a story with a coworker. You know, when you're doing something and you start to think about something interesting about that particular series of events unfolding, or, you know, for me, Thomas, a lot of times it's like a turn of phrase type thing, you know. And in fact, Thomas, I wanted to tell you this story, dude. And this is because I hope your listeners know, like, I'm not a bad guy, but I like sleazy stuff, man. And this is a really good sleazy story. Okay. so there was a time where in my life where I had a sort of crisis of confidence when it came to the more intimate moments of your life. Okay. And I was having some issues with performance. Okay. Does any of this kind of make sense at all?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So Blaze, my bandmate, he says, man, I know this guy that sells, he sells some pills that'll help you with your problem, man. And they come from India or something, but they work, I heard. So why don't you talk to this guy? So anyway, I call this guy and sure enough, get a hold of some of this stuff. And I'm having a conversation with this guy outside of his house, real cool cat. And he says, older guy, probably like 65 or better. And, he says, well, see, me and my wife, we're swingers. And I'm like, oh man, that's different. What are you supposed to say to that? Right? Like, oh yeah, well, cool. And, he said, yeah. We do that whole swinging thing. And he said, and the reason I'm able to do that, he said, cause there ain't a jealous bone in my body. That's what he told me. And I hung on to that thing and stuck that in that Pipeliner song. And I guarantee you that's where it came from. Just phrases, man. You know what I mean? Just little colorful things that happen in language that you hang on to. That a lot of times that's what gets me rolling on a song idea. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Just because I think that like that grounds a character, right? Is that it was said by someone that you overheard or someone said to you, and it just kind of makes that you can build off that. You can ground that character from that line or that whatever that phrase was.
I can't believe I told you that story, dude. I had to. I had to tell you that story because I had to illustrate that sometimes lines come from for me anyway, they come from the most bizarre circumstances. Also to illustrate that there's another reason I tell you that I think you've noticed that our songs are real honest, because I really don't give a damn what anybody thinks about me. So, I mean, I do, but I don't, you know what I mean? Because I know that everybody's got problems, man. That, you know what I mean? Everybody in the world, the rich, the poor, that, people are always dealing with the show that's running between their ears. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that appeals to people when you give them a piece of the trouble that's running in your world or a character's world. You know what I mean? Because people can vouch for they can feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, I thought that story was going to be going kind of like the Eastern medicine kind of route, where connected to what song is it that you mentioned, like the shaman?
Oh, in Ghost. Yeah. No, it was much more sleazier and foul than that. Also, so that whole, the Pipeliner thing, it's just totally shrouded in, sleazery, man. I never dated a Cuban stripper, but I have been with a Cuban stripper in the Post grocery store, on a lake trip. I've never beat up a lawyer, or really anybody else. I'm not really much of a fighter, but, so I have been asked that before, if that stuff was autobiographical. And I mean, elements are, right, but certainly no. And by the way, big shout out to Charlie Stout, because he's the one I had that song started, and he's the one that told me, dude, you got to finish it. So I pieced together those, different pieces from all over the place to get that one. But no, Ghost is more pure, better songwriting too, I think.
Going back to Pipeliner real quick, Marco Gutierrez of Dirty River Boys is on there. How did he get involved in Yeah, how'd that work? How did he get involved? I don't know why if there's a B. No, just an A.
So he is he works with Eric Harrison and Mike Ingber at Studio 601 in Austin, where we did the recording.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys are really, really cool guys. They're really, really cool guys, and I think they have a great ear. And when Eric, who is the half of that union that's from Lubbock, when he heard that song, he said, "Man, I'm hearing a harmony in it," and not before we even left the recording session. That before we even went back to Lubbock, he said, "Man, I'm going to try to get Marco on this track." And of course, we're like, "Well, yeah, by all means," but I kind of thought all along, I bet that don't happen. You know what I mean? That'd be cool, but I don't see that happening. I bet, either he never gets around to it or he's not interested or whatever. You know what I mean? We're very small fish, man. We're not pulling weight over here. You know what I mean? So anyway, one day he hits us up on Messenger on Facebook. He says, "Well, Marco laid it down." And we were like, "Wow." So anyway, I think it does work great. I honestly, I thought that Marco needed to be louder on that track, but nobody else did. And nobody else agrees with me when it comes to my, when I record or my volume level on tracks. Nobody. So I think they made the right choice, but I actually thought it could have been louder. I love him on that song.
Yeah. Like I guess like when I first started New Slang, Dirty River Boys was like one of the first outside of Lubbock bands that let me kind of like do interviews and shit with them. So yeah, I've known those guys for a good while, and just same kind of West Texan grit.
Right. I never. I mean, we didn't get to meet them, of course, and I want to. I've spoken briefly with Marco just through text or whatever. But they're out this way quite a bit, and the last few times, oddly enough, they played in Ropes a couple of times recently. So I need to get out there and catch those dudes because I'd like to talk to them. I mean, they're another band too that in a very different way but they're kind of a different sound in this whole game too.
Yeah, like that's to me that's all tied to them being. I guess like what I would kind of remember is when they first started out in El Paso, they were, full band electric, and all these gigs that they were getting were just way too small to ever put all that kind of stuff into the corner. So they had to take the drum set out and have like just the cajon and, acoustic guitars and stuff. And then they just kind of stuck with that for a while. And then of course, like they've kind of progressively gone more electric, but I think like the bones of that band was always just like that electric or that acoustic kind of energy and that, do it yourself kind of thing.
Yes. You know what's really crazy to me too is those guys. That's these guys are and I don't know how if they're like very heavily Mexican influenced people. I mean, you would think in El Paso it would be, but it's not the sound you would expect coming from El Paso, I guess, put it that way. You know what I mean? It's a very it's a very different sound, but it's really awesome. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to make a bad sounding statement there. If anybody anywhere can play what they want, it's like, man, that when I first heard them, I'm like, these guys are from El Paso. It sounds like something you hear coming out of Boston. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there definitely is the man, there for a while actually. Like what's interesting is in Texas there's been like this little bit of like that Celtic punk kind of thing. Like that just has like a little something in there. And like you can tell that very much in Dirty River Boys. I think like there's some of that maybe like in some early Shane Smith and the Saints stuff. And
yes,
I don't know, I'm probably thinking if you gave me a minute, I'd probably think of like another 10 bands, but just, I don't know why necessarily that was coming in at the time, but like, yeah, there's definitely been a little touch of that in a lot of people's music. And I think like the thing with El Paso is just that, you know, it's just so much bigger than people realize. So,
oh, dude, it's humongous.
Having that size just means like there's just so much more just diversity as far as music goes.
Yeah, I think El Paso is. I've gone out there on my way to Arizona a few times and ended up out there for work reasons a few different times, and I think it's sort of a sleeper Texas city. I kind of like it. I'm not saying that because I like Mexican things. I'm not going to say fluent. People tell me, "Oh, you're fluent," but I speak a lot of Spanish. I've spent a lot of time around Hispanic people from the States, and I have a lot of friends from Mexico. So I love that culture and stuff. So it's not really a weird connection for me, but just in general, I think El Paso's a place that has kind of a bad reputation, or not necessarily bad, but nobody seems to really give half a shit about El Paso. It's actually kind of a cool place, I think, you know?
Yeah. I think it's because, well, there's like multitude of reasons, but to me, primarily, I think what it is because it's so fucking far from everywhere else. And then like, it's in like the Western or the mountain time zone, which kind of like just cuts you off from everyone else.
It's not on the path to anywhere, really.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by New Slang. So obviously, you're listening to New Slang right now. That probably means that you enjoy it, or at least you enjoy some of the conversations with the artists that are on here. Well, you may be interested in helping support New Slang a little bit more by doing one of a handful of things. One, stop by our New Slang merch store and order some merch. Right now, there's t-shirts, koozies, buttons, stickers, magnets, and a handful of keychains and the like. Two, if you like New Slang just a little bit more, you can join the New Slang Patreon. What is Patreon? Well, it's like a subscription service. Since New Slang is free, it's a great way to get some extra bonuses and additional content. For example, if you subscribe to the Postcard Pal tier for $5 a month, you'll get ad-free episodes, updates on upcoming guests, and monthly New Slang postcards. The postcards are essentially little mini show posters that I started designing to highlight that month's roster of guests. Like right now, we just ended the month of November, so November's show poster is a denim jacket where all the episode guests are individual buttons pinned to the jacket. Right now, if you sign up for the Patreon, I'll go ahead and make sure you get all the back prints. Again, signing up for the New Slang Patreon or purchasing something from the New Slang merch store are great ways to help support New Slang. Another easy, simple way is to give us a 5-star review over on iTunes and share New Slang with all your friends and family who you think may enjoy New Slang. Links to both the Patreon and the merch store and all of our social media stuff is in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
No, anyway, yeah, and we talking about El Paso. Yeah, it's just so far away, dude. It's not on the way to anywhere, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's one of those things where I think a lot of people, obviously it's on I-10 and you can go down I-10, but I think that like for the most part if you're going, like it's one of those things where if you're going to Los Angeles, most people aren't driving, you know, so you're not going to be hitting that. You're not hitting El Paso and Tucson and where I guess like Phoenix and stuff like that. You're not going to do that. Most people are just flying out there. So you're going to fly over from there to Austin or San Antonio or wherever you're flying from, Dallas. So yeah, all that part right there is just kind of lost.
Yeah, there's not out that way. Yeah, but which is you know the Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona is cool, and a lot of good parts of New Mexico as well. That's something too. On the next album, I think there's going to be a thing or two that gives a little bit of there's a little New Mexico connection in some of the stuff at least one song that I think will be on the next album. And that's another thing too, that we writing about places. And that's one thing that's been real fun is to throw in stuff from the area, just like the Pipeliner song has the post grocery store reference. I know a lot of people love that because they know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, if you're in Georgia or even East Texas or whatever, you've never been there. But I think people, even without having been there, kind of get a feeling of what in their mind what that might look like.
Yeah, I think like always throwing in geographical locations always kind of, again, it like grounds a song and it makes it like specific to an area where the people from that area go, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And then like it goes back to that whole Springsteen thing of like where other people go, oh yeah, I need to go visit this place, you know, not necessarily for the post grocery store, but you get what my point
well,
is.
you know, you were talking about them being disappointed. My God, if they come out here looking for some of the stuff that's referenced in these songs, they're going to say, God Almighty, what I really thought it would be better than this.
Yeah, like I feel like I don't know, like I feel that when I say this, I'm talking for most people from out here, and that is that like post is like probably like my least favorite of the towns from around this area, just because of the just the location. I mean, like you have to go through post no matter where you're going to, basically.
Right.
And
right.
also, man, the one thing that bothers me more than anything else in really with cities is that, or towns, not cities, is when they're trying to, the speed trap town aspect, when they drop down from like 75 to like 55 over like the course of like 2 seconds. Those are the worst towns.
over 30. They expect you to decelerate coming down off the Caprock. You know, yeah. No, for sure. I guess the only thing that a lot of times when I go through post, this is one, I'll give it an upside. The only thing about post is when you're leaving Lubbock, post is that first sign that you're going somewhere. And when you're headed back home, it's the last thing that tells you you're damn near back. You know what I mean? So, So it's like, I guess it always has, for me, it has always kind of had this feeling of that I was moving somewhere or another. You know what I mean? In a way that, say, you know, going through Leveland or something didn't exactly do. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely so. Like it's like any band that's played Lubbock in the last, I don't know, since the beginning of time, they've gone through post, and they stop at that Allsups or wherever their go-tos. I kind of go to Allsups every time because I don't know if there's like an embargo of Allsups not in Lubbock or something, but it's like the closest one.
That's a strange thing because people really like Allsups, and I don't know why. Like you said, it's an embargo or what. I remember when strikes came. I mean, I guess I don't get it. Is that what it is? Is there like a non-compete thing going on or what?
No, I have no idea. Yeah.
You know, the Allsup's a pretty dinky little spot, except for, you know, the obvious stuff. I mean, it's almost become a cliche probably in our, if not the genre in our conversations, but honestly, you know, the fried burrito, the taco sauce, the whole thing. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah. Like anytime I stop, I have to get like anywhere from 5 to 10 bottles of hot sauce, of that taco sauce, just to be stocked up on, because you can't get it anywhere else. And
yeah, they really are.
I don't think that's like the greatest like taco sauce ever, but it is very, very much a it can never be wrong, I guess. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like it can be if it's just batting for average right there, like just a solid it's a single every time. And
yeah, you can plug it in everywhere. It's always going to work.
Versatile. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. That's another thing too. You know, those going to an Allsup's, there's another little, and I don't know how far those things go when you head east. I don't assume they go very far, do they? But that's kind of a West Texas small town thing. You know, I've been to the Allsup's in Idly. I've been to the Allsup's in, you know, wherever, Crosbyton, you know, all over the place. That you've been in all those different posts. You've been in all those different stores. I guess that's kind of it has like that Zia thing on it, right? So they obviously they must not go very far headed back east.
Yeah, like I don't think it really does. I think that, you know, I don't know. I guess like there's more of a Stripes thing, and then of course like there's a lot of stuff out like there's no Buc-ee's out here, which I've never actually even been to a Buc-ee's. So,
dude, me neither.
I feel like,
and I know. Yeah, I know you, bro. I know, because I follow you. I know you're a Twitter guy, and that's one of those things that becomes like, you know, like a trendy thing. You know what I mean? Like memes about it, blah blah blah, and Buc-ee's and all this. And I always feel really, I feel really vulnerable when I see all that stuff because I've never been to one either, and so I hear they're nice, and I have passed them. But even in those moments when I passed them, I thought to myself, man, I don't need gas. I don't need to use the restroom. I'm not going to just pull over just to see this big ass convenience store. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure like they are super fucking nice, and I'm sure like I would enjoy going in and going like, oh yeah, that was a good stop. But like, yeah, I'm also one of those guys where it's like, I just don't really stop unless I need gas or fuel for myself, you know. That's just.
Oh yeah, for sure. If I travel alone, sometimes in my work, we're involved in a lot of in cotton ginning, and they do that stuff in not just in West Texas, but in South Texas and along the Gulf Coast in there, but like south of Houston, all the way down, you know, all the way down to Mexico pretty much. And so I've made some runs by myself to Palacios down there south of Bay City, or I don't even know where it is by Bay City. I mean, it's like 30-40 minutes from Bay City, Texas. So kind of loosely in the Houston area, but down south of there. And on those long runs, man, there's a lot of driving to do. And I'm the same way, man. I would rather do my best to, now I'll drink coffee. So I'll have to stop at some point because you can't keep coffee in forever. But I try my best to not stop. You know, it just makes the trip even longer.
Yeah. Like my dad, you know, he had has a trailer shop in Fort Stockton, and he was always out of town, and I would always have to go with him. And I think that's where I got it from, is like, just like kind of like the, you know, stopping only for necessity. I remember like we would, this is one of those things where I'm like, is that, so we would go out on these ranches, and, you know, especially out if it was close to Fort Stockton, but like still in the middle of nowhere, where it would be, right, you're not going to be getting lunch. And I remember like we'd, you know, if there was someone going with us, he'd obviously tell them, you know, pack a lunch for tomorrow, yada, yada, that kind of thing. And then you're thinking, okay, well, you know, my dad would have a packed lunch or something for us too. And no, man, his packed lunch was always like stopping right before leaving town, going into, and this was pre-Stripes, so it's Town and Country, and then like grabbing a couple of like cans of like beanie weenies and Vienna sausages, and that would be like fucking lunch. And you're just like, man, like this is the break that we were gonna have at lunch out here on this ranch when it's like 110 degrees outside isn't even gonna be fucking nice either. So
it was just a can of weenies, man. I like those. I do like those Vienna weenies. My dad calls them Vienna, man. That's very irritating. I guess it's really called a Vienna sausage or whatever, but
yeah,
those things are good. And I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I will peel that lid off that thing and drink that juice. I will do that.
See, that's
and I could lie, but that's the truth.
See, okay, two things on that. One, I had a buddy I was working with who called them Vienna sausages. And then two, that right there, the drinking of the juice, that's like a different level of tough. I'm telling you, like that's.
I'll tell you what I love it, man. My dad did that, and I remember thinking of how repulsive it was, but it's just a very it's a very brothy saline flavor type thing, salty broth, and I mean I watched him do it, so I started doing it too. But those things, I guess I'll say this with those, I can feel for you on those meals there, because that is not much of a meal and not a very good one, even in its quantity. Not that great.
Want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer a handful of my favorite go-tos. By no means am I an experienced mixologist or bartender or anything like that, but these have been super easy to make and great ways to unwind in the evening. Let's start off by upping your ranch water game a little bit by subbing Desert Door in. I'm a simple man. I just kind of take a Topo Chico, take a couple of drinks out, add some Desert Door, and top it off with a few lime wedges. I'm actually pretty big on the Palomas now too. What I'll do is take some Desert Door, some grapefruit juice, a dash of agave nectar, and some fresh lime juice. And I'm kind of big on lime, so I'll throw in another wedge or two when I pour it over some ice. And actually, I'll do the exact same thing, but I'll substitute some pineapple for the grapefruit for a change up. And now that the weather is dipping down, I've started having a Desert Door version of a hot toddy. Put some Door and some honey together and give it a mix. Add in an Earl Grey tea bag with some boiling hot water. Let it just sit for a minute. Remember, patience is a virtue. And then, of course, I'll squeeze in a little bit of lemon just to have that balance. Anyway, Desert Door, it's as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, and complex than tequila. It's rich and balanced, so whatever your go-to is, it'll do the trick. For more info on Desert Door, check the show notes. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, it'd be like that, and like, you know, maybe a bag of chips or some saltine crackers. I feel like
that's sad.
Yeah, it's that sad stuff right there. It's the I don't know, like my dad. Me and my dad really don't have a relationship anymore, but like I think that like a lot of the things growing up are very specific to like this blue collar essence of West Texas, and I'm sure like it applies for a lot of Texas in general, but it's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like having like the BC powder in the glove compartment, like that right there is like something that I don't know a lot of people use anymore, or if they still do, I don't know.
Oh, for sure. That's funny. I work with my dad to this day, and I've been real lucky. I got a good dad. He's a bit cantankerous in his age nowadays, to be fair, but he would tell me like this with regard to that BC powder. That makes me think of that. I remember being young, and my mom, if we had headaches or whatever, giving us, you know, Tylenol or aspirin or whatever. And I remember him telling me one time when I was still, you know, 9 or 10 years old, the very thing you're talking about. And he would be kind of like, if you got a headache, get you some of that BC powder right there. And that's better than any of that other stuff. And I said, what do you do with that stuff? You know, you drink it, you know, swallow it. And I remember thinking, God almighty, it's a crushed up, looks like a bunch of crushed up Advil, what it looks like, you know?
Yeah. I think.
But yeah, no, sorry, I interrupt you. No, I totally hear what you're saying there, man. That I feel the same way. All those little things, you know.
Yeah, I think I was talking with one of our mutual buddies, Dave Martinez, about, you know, if you that needs like to be a brunch thing. you order a BC powder and Topo Chico and like a shot of your preference. That's like a
they could just dump it in there. Would make it to me would seem like it would disperse good, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's like the way to go. But
man, that's an interesting thing too. If somebody could be the richest man that ever lived in the whole world, if he could figure out how to let you go enjoy a night of imbibement and not have to pay for it. Still can't figure it out.
Yeah. I was going to go back to the songs off this EP that you just released, that y'all released. You mentioned kind of like how Charlie Stout had mentioned, oh, you got to finish that song and stuff like that on Pipeliner. Generally, like where are these songs from? Like, are they all like fresh and new, or do any of them kind of date back for a while?
They let's see. The Houston is new. Taylor Houston is new. Pipeliner is new. Ghost is, my God, now, and really shows my age. Ghost is like, I think that started to come about, I don't know, say 7 or 8 years ago, maybe. House of Golden Diamonds is ancient, man. Ancient. That thing, I think I think that came from maybe like 2003, something like that, way back.
Oh yeah, man, that's
and that's definitely. And that plays into what I was talking about earlier, Thomas, is like, this kind of started as like a collection of hopefully not completed lifetime, but like a life lived to some extent already, and kind of a gathering of songs that have been like stuff you play on the couch, more or less, over the years, and for friends. And we kind of gathered all that stuff up and took the 5 that we felt would work best for this project, and did the EP with it. Of course, not like I said, some of those are newer than others, but that's there's a lot of old material there, and there's still some more older material that we may record yet. Although I got to say, as a band, we've been having a lot of fun writing as a band. Does that make sense? Like, so much of this stuff was, stuff that I did totally alone, and in many ways alone. You know what I mean? As alone as you could get with a guitar over the years of my life. And now, I've got a band, and we've got a band, and so everything is. I still tend to be pretty heavily involved in the songwriting stuff. Sometimes I bring an idea to the band. Sometimes we work together and stuff. But still, those guys let me. They let me have a big part of the. Being the. We write songs together, but I usually kind of get the last say when it comes to lyrics, especially. So, and I think that's fair. I try to let those guys have the last say when it comes to music, especially. So, but yeah, a lot of that stuff's old, and now we're, I've still got some old stuff I'd like to do, but now we're doing a lot more writing now, so that's fun. We're having a good time with that.
Yeah, in this strange way, like I feel that, if there's been a song that I don't know, like whatever, like the past 20 years that you've written that is still like an itch that you need to scratch, that's kind of like showing that maybe like the strength of that song. You know what I mean? That like maybe other people don't have the luxury of having. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It has occurred to me that that I've been fortunate or had a pretty good song, or both, or whatever, that some of those songs you could actually plug in, 20 years later. And House of Golden Diamonds is the one I'm talking about. It's old as sin, and people seem to still like it and associate with it and stuff. So that, or not associate, but to feel it, and so yeah, that makes me feel really good, and that's why I'm saying moving forward, I hope that there's still. I hope that the relevance is still there, and the connection is still there. Writing with the band, one thing that's happening is a lot of this stuff is not a lot of it, but it is rocking, okay, but it is not. If anything, there are heavy tinges of Southern rock in it, which I never expected to make. Another thing that's happening a lot is we've been writing a lot of honky tonk stuff, sounds a lot like Mike and the Moonpies type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which is really not a direction I ever intended to go. But I got to say, I think that people are really going to like them. The couple songs that are sort of like that, I really do. I think they're good songs.
Yeah, I think that one of the things, especially out here in Lubbock, especially, that maybe people haven't really understood or seen is just how much of Lubbock is a little bit more of a dive bar honky tonk town than I think most people realize, and that a lot of these bands, they come out of this I guess they're being a little bit more of a. You got to be loud, or got to be at least listenable to, not listenable. Yeah. I want to cut some of this out right here, but you got to be.
Yeah, right. No. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
And I think that's all tied to that. So if there is that honky tonk element, or there is that Southern rock kind of that's stuff that has to be played here in Lubbock. And a lot of the gigs around here are like that. And now, of course, there's not a lot of gigs happening right now, but I think it's all part of the DNA, the fabric of what Lubbock is.
Yeah, I think so too. Man, imagine this. Our drummer is named Russ Jones, and he's well, for example, in one of the honky tonk songs that I believe will be on this album that we'll try to work on ASAP. He's a hell of a guitar player. He's a much better guitar player than me, but he plays the drums, right? He's one of those guys. And for a long time, he had a long-standing DJ gig at the Cocoa Inn here in Lubbock. And man, you want to talk about a dive bar, man?
Yeah,
that is, and that, in other words, that's where some of that stuff. So if I listen to somebody, say I mentioned them because they're sort of the to me one of the hottest bar sound acts that you hear right now, but like Mike and the Moonpies, I see the Cocoa Inn when I hear that music.
Yeah, there's the blue collar element, the grit, just there's something about
despair.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say there's it's one of those things I always describe whenever it comes to when it comes to sports and especially basketball. Whenever there's a fight on the court. And I say fight in air quotes there because there's no real fighting. But for the most part in the NBA, you have these little pushing matches, and no one actually wants to fight, and it's
right.
That's the exact. But okay, I guess what I'm saying is every once in a while there's that one guy who doesn't have to get ready. He's already born ready, and that is exactly what's happening at places like this. Is If you can't get ready for a fight. You have to already be ready, and that's what that element is.
Yes,
they're looking for a fight.
You got to have it in you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Totally. That's of course. Yeah. In fact. Yeah. Last time I was there, which I'm ashamed to say wasn't too long ago, to tell you the truth, but it's there's like there's a lot of bikers in there, and man, I'm a real easygoing guy. So I think sometimes people are surprised when they see me because I don't have any hair, man. Because I biologically don't have hair on my head. I'm bald, right? So I'm bald and I have facial hair, and I'm a guy with decent stature, and I have a lot of tattoos. So I think folks think that that I'm that guy, but I always think it's funny because it couldn't be any less of the case. You know what I mean? I'm a very passive guy. I like to have fun and talk, and like you said, you're talking about the guys that are just born that way. I never was one of those guys. So at the Cocoa, a lot of bikers and stuff, and I don't know. In my short amount of time I've spent there, I've never had any issues because it seems like most of the time if you don't mess with people, they won't mess with you. But it's always possible. I guess it's that kind of place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's only a wrong word away.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Is like I don't think like anyone is starting trouble, but they don't have any problem ending it. This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has undoubtedly been my home away from home over the years and has played such a vital role not only for my development as a journalist, but obviously it's been one of the foundational pieces for a lot of your favorite songwriters and bands who have made it out of the Lubbock area over the years. And of course, as a music venue, they've played such a pivotal role for a lot of your favorite bands just in general. One of my favorite parts about Blue Light is just how versatile the place can truly be. I've seen it crowded and rowdy on a Saturday night for a rock and roll band, and I've seen it dead still on a Wednesday when a legendary singer-songwriter rolls through town. What you should do is go over to bluelightlubbock.com and check out all the new merch they've added. Hats, t-shirts, both short and long sleeve. They also have hoodies and koozies and just added some sweatshirts that are very much an homage to the college sweatshirt that John Belushi wore in Animal House. And then of course, maybe the crown jewel of their new merch is the Varsity Club style jacket in blue satin. I got one the other day, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite things I own now. And yeah, I don't know, I just love it. Anyway, you can check out all of their new merch over at bluelightlubbock.com. As always, I'll throw a link into the show notes for easy access. Okay, let's get back to the show. You're from Lubbock, right?
Yes, I went to high school here. I actually I was in La Mesa until I was 13. So I went to 8th grade through graduation at Cooper High School here in Lubbock. So yeah, I mean, I do consider myself to be from Lubbock, but I actually spent some time in La Mesa as well. A pretty significant amount of my childhood there.
Yeah, I heard from good authority that you had gone to Cooper from one of my buddies, Ross Cooper, who said like you went to school with his brother, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was Bonner's age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had shared your EP with a couple of the other Lubbock guys, and Ross had mentioned, "Oh yeah, it's good to see like Mason's doing something here." Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Ross said, "God Almighty, he ought to have made that damn thing. He should have done it 20 years ago." Yeah, I remember. So like, it's funny when you get older, right? Your age gap doesn't matter as much because I'm not like way older than Ross, but I do remember being at that age gap where like I was at his house And I don't know who had the guitar. I don't know if it was his brother or if it was his already or what, but, you know, he was about half a peewee, man. And, you know, I'm like 17, 18 years old, at least 16. And, you know, he was, I'm guessing it's at least 5, 6 years, probably 5 or 6 years. And I remember him seeing me playing this guitar. And I remember thinking, man, I know he thinks I look cool because he's a Smurf. You know, he's just a puppy. And then, you know, he's like, oh man, that's badass. And then lo and behold, you know, he just never, I think he just never gave up on picking guitars and playing, man. Ross is good, man. His whole family's, they're like really good people, man.
Oh, definitely
real
so.
good, like salt of the earth type people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've not
His
met like anyone better.
Oh yeah. They're the best, man. Have you met Buzz, his dad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man. Buzz is, well, his mom and dad. I mean, the whole outfit, they're just great people, dude. That's my favorite kind of folks in the whole world is those kind right there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're the kind who like, I've never like not seen them at like a show of Ross's whenever he plays here, you know, like that's
right.
It's very, very easy for parents to kind of go, oh, that's too late. Or like, oh, I'm not interested in going, and just kind of missing those moments. But like, yeah, I'm pretty sure like I've seen them like at like basically every show that Ross has had up here. But yeah, that's interesting, the age gap thing, because definitely so. When you're young, like even a year can make all the difference between just feeling like older than hell in comparison to someone else. But then obviously we're not breaking any ground here by saying that like the age gap shrinks as you get older. But I think specifically within musicians, it's almost non-existent once you get to being a musician, because I've seen so many, especially here in Lubbock, you know, there's so many songwriters who are in this, like for me, like I'm in my early 30s, and I know like so many young songwriters in their early 20s, and then songwriters in their 40s and 50s, and they all kind of just like get along. And there's something like that. You don't even have to. Now, of course, like there's plenty of shit you give the 20-year-old kid because they don't understand, you know, like 90s references to shit. But yeah, like they're like, for some reason, like that gap just turns into nothing, especially when it comes to musicians.
Well, yeah, I think so. And music people, you know, what you're peddling, it is a product that doesn't, is not very age discriminative, or however you say, you know what I mean? Like you can always make that product till you're dead, I suppose, you know. I would say with the music thing, to me, it seems like the only part of that matters age-wise is the superficial stuff, which is, in other words, if you want to be a heavy hitter, big time, high profile thing where sex sells, that thing, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you want to be a rock star, you need to do that before you're 40, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you know, you can be an old rock star that was already a rock star, but if you're gonna, you know, does that make sense? But you can't jump in the game later because it's always in a consumer capital society like this one. You know, it's the hottest, the sexiest. Whereas in this genre, that's not so much the case, but there are elements of that, I think, though, still, you know. I mean, it's just awesome to be the young cat that's tearing everything up before he's, you know, even 25. But a buddy of mine was telling me the other day that he and another buddy of mine were talking and said, well, it's really good that Mason's doing this now, because he would have burned out if he did it any younger. So I think there's I don't know if that's God or what, or just the way it worked out. I don't know how all that works, but this chance to do this has been really cool in that way because, I like, man, I'm a beer drinking guy. I'm really not much a drinker just for drinking, like liquor and everything. I like to drink beer. I really do. It's a big part of my life. It probably needs to be less a part of my life, but it's not a crazy, overblown thing. But like, for example, nowadays, as opposed to, even 5 years ago, but certainly 10 or 15 years ago, when we have shows or, we're going to play a show, we're locked in, you know what I mean? And we'll have a few beers before we start to kind of knock the edge off a little bit. But, there's a real focus and, mature thing about putting on a hell of a show. Yeah. And, I don't think I could have done it like these young cats do, man. I don't know, how these guys consistently put on as many good shows as they do with all the things that are available to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's the thing about this, about music in general has always been let's just use the term, like the sideshow. It's been very easy to like just turn in, like, I guess, just buy into, not necessarily buy in, but like, it's easy to just indulge in whatever it is that you like to indulge in. And that can be anything from just, like the alcohol, drugs, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's very easy to just like indulge in any of that because it's right there. And the temptations can set like it. Everyone's been 18 and been, as Ray Wiley Hubbard would say, like, patience is a virtue that I don't possess. That is we've all been there with that. I'm just kind of like going back to your whole thing about, you can't be you can be a rock star at 50, but you can't start being a rock star at 50 kind of thing. Cause I'm thinking, like, I was just thinking about like, oh man, how ridiculous would it be if like Tommy Lee, we just learned of Tommy Lee now, or like Steven Tyler, or
you'd be like, who the fuck is this old guy, man? What the fuck is this guy doing? But instead, or Keith Richards, my God, you would say this is an absolute. I mean, where did you drag this thing out of, to show us? But if you already were one, well then you can be. But again though, that's the whole. That is tied into the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll thing. That's the part of where, if you were going to try to build a brand and you wanted to be the Rolling Stones or whatever, it would be better to start that young, in the world, in the Texas world now, the only people that probably, could probably touch something like that, at least have laid the ground, would be somebody, I guess, like Cole, maybe, I guess, but it doesn't really work that way in this genre anyways. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, who's the biggest rock stars in this band? And to me, I think you probably are sympathetic to this. I mean, you can make a lot of cases as to who's laid the best stuff out there over the years and all that, but it's hard to argue with the body of work and the quality of Turnpike, for example. Mm-hmm. But they're not exactly really rock stars in the same way as Pantera or something. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Guns N' Roses or Pantera or whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
They are rock stars, but it's different. So that's a good thing about this genre. And I think maybe a big reason for it is just because people really do pay attention to the songs, man. The words matter. People listen,
Yeah. And I think, like, I've had conversations with friends about this specifically with Turnpike has been like they came around at the right time, but B, like they somehow have like tapped into really like both sides of the whatever we want to call this, the Texas country red dirt world, as far as they get like the kids who are 20 years old who want to go to a show just to drink beer and party for the show experience. And then they also tapped into the crowd who is like listening to songs, who are not necessarily there for that, but are there for the songs and the storytelling, and that just kind of get wrapped up in the narrative. And they've been able to do both with like a really great balance. And it never feels like I would say they've definitely felt like at times where they've leaned into great, amazing storytelling, but it never feels like they've gone too far in a direction of just being a quote unquote, like a party band or anything like that. It's always been at the end of the day about like the storytelling, but like their brand of storytelling has been very much where you can consume it as if you were just trying to break it down, like if it was Shakespeare, or you can just like consume it if it was like just, the top layer of culture.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a fascinating thing in that way. I think I told you on Twitter, and I don't know if you saw it, because there's many things happen on Twitter, but of all the damn lines in the world that I love the most from Turnpike is in the Bird Hunters. How good does it feel? You belong in these hills, and when you just write it in words, it doesn't sound that same way. You know what I mean? But I absolutely love that, because that's that guy's buddy. That's his best buddy, and he's telling him, man, how good does it feel? You belong in these hills. You know what I mean? It's a simple line, but I love that stuff. But like you said, it never gets so heavy that you're like way like art band type thing, like total lyric band. You still have all that melodic stuff and all that too. So they're great,
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, and you can integrate this or not, but I'm still sitting in my truck, and Blaze, the bass man and co-founder, just stepped in the truck.
Yes, I pulled up and I saw the lights on, and I was like, oh, it's the bad signal. He's out in the truck doing this thing probably.
Yeah, but I lost him once, but I never went inside. I told him I'll just stay on the call.
Well played.
Hey, nice meeting you, man.
Yeah, you too. Obviously, all the pleasure is on this side of the phone. I promise you, man. We appreciate, everything that you've done, and it's real cool that you decided to call and have a chat with Mason. We're excited about it.
Yeah, well, it's been one of those things where, as I've tweeted out a 1,000 times on this, where I think every journalist, just their entire thing is having lists. Like, I just have so many lists of like things that I need to write about, bands I want on the podcast, and yada. It just lists. That's what a journalist does. It's just maintain lists. And of course,
Right.
Y'all have been on one of these lists at least for a while. So it was like, and then of course, like just in conjunction with the start of this year, usually I have like a bunch of these in the can, and I don't have any right now. And it was like, okay, but
no, dude, that is no problem with us, man.
It's kind of, I've listened to, obviously I listen to your podcast whenever I'm at work and stuff, and it seems like every conversation you've had, it's been talk about how 2020 has just been a pretty unproductive year. You can't get out and play, you can't write, and what's funny about that is for us, I mean, we kind of slide into that slot because that 2020 was sort of our year.
But I get well. That's what I told him. That's the first thing he asked me. Is like, how is it to not be able to do it? And I was like, well, we're a weird outfit to ask that question because we want. I mean, yeah, we want to play and everything, but we're just kind of like this kind of stuff. Like this helps us in a big way because, I mean, a lot of folks don't know who we are still, And I think we'll get that. I think we'll get to where people know who we are. But at the moment, we're still flying pretty lawful under the radar. We're pretty low. You know what I mean?
It's been an organic, it's been an organic ascent. It's kind of like whenever we put that EP together, the first thing we talked about is like, man, it'd be really cool to just, for this to take off just enough to, let's try and get into the blue light for one. And, first thing that happens in 2021, first week, we're playing a blue light, and actually, filled it up. They were turning people away at the door. So we were
by COVID,
right? Yeah. But we're the only ones playing, and that many people came out to support us, and so it's just a screenshot that not all the effort, not everything we've done leading up to that has gone to waste. So we're just trying to ride the wave, I guess, so to speak.
Hey, it's been great talking with y'all today. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, man, it really is our pleasure. We're super happy to get to talk to you. You talk to a lot of the heavy hitters in this deal we're doing. So we're really, really happy that you asked us to do it.
And your podcast is badass. Besides, I pass the time seriously. A lot of my days I pass my time listening to it, and also Neon Eon. I'll say it for you. Neon Eon. Got to check that shit out. If you like 90s country, and we're old enough that we like 90s country.
We're from the Neon Eon, baby.
All right, that is going to be it for this one. Be sure to check out Mason and the Gin Line and their latest EP, Caprock Composition, if you haven't just yet. Be sure to check out our Patreon, the New Slang merch store, our other podcast called The Neon Eon. Stop on over at our presenting partners over at Hot Damn Coffee, Desert Door, and the Blue Light Live. And yeah, I'll see y'all later this week for more New Slang.